A woman has shamed her neighbour for going into work despite having COVID. She stopped him while he was getting into his car and told him he was morally obliged to isolate because he could infect colleagues who may suffer far worse and indeed pass it on to their relatives. Now, as of this Friday, Sajid Javid has said workers in England no longer need to test, but they should still stay at home if they have symptoms like a high temperature. But this is just guidance. It is, of course, no longer the law. So do we have a moral duty? Do we all still feel, Linda, if you were to test positive,
then I wouldn't
just go about your life as normal?
No, I wouldn't come to work because obviously there's lots of people here. We see lots of people from security when we arrive in the morning to makeup to wardrobe, and I wouldn't want to pass it round. And there's also lots of elderly people that we work with, Janet, and myself included. So, yeah, obviously I wouldn't want to pass it round. And like my son, he got COVID last week, so he couldn't go to Jamal's funeral. He was devastated because Jamal found him and put him on, you know, on his tractor, being a musician and that. But, yeah, no, I think, obviously, if you think you might have the symptoms, then you stay at home and try. But how did this woman find out that he had the symptoms?
Well, this is a big question. Was it that? Was it like, yes, that's a whole other story, I think, actually. Stacey, what do you think? I mean, it's not easy for people to just take days off work anymore. We're all trying to get back to work, and some employers aren't that sort of easygoing.
Firstly, I agree with Linda. What a nosy neighbour. How does she even know this information? I'd be more worried about that. But also, I think we're assuming that people have the choice. There's a lot of people out there with employers who, because of the new government regulations, their employers will be saying, sorry, you've still got to come to work. So some people don't even have that choice as to whether they can decide to go in or not go in if they've got COVID. And I guess the government's putting it into our hands to decide with the situation, as long as we've got the permission from our employer. I mean, we're lucky enough to, if we've got COVID, you know, when we come to work, we still have to isolate. And so we can say, yeah, I'm not going to go in and I'm not going to infect other people. But I just think there's so many people out there that, one, can't afford to isolate because they're not going to get paid for it. And two, their employers are saying, well, there's no rules anymore, so you need to come to work. I need the staff. And they kind of don't really have a choice.
Yeah, which makes the moral argument difficult.
Yeah, but if we don't come to work, we don't get paid. Let's put that one clear. Let's make that clear. We don't work, we don't get paid. I think it's up to everybody to decide to take personal responsibility. If you're in a job where it's not very risky and you're not working in close contact with other people and your symptoms are really mild, well, why shouldn't you go to work? I think we've got to face the reality that this version of COVID is not very severe. It's not much different to a bad cold or a slight flu. And you have to decide whether you feel infectious. Are you sneezing? Are you coughing? If you're not, and you feel you can do your job, then go to work. Because in the end, if you do test positive, you are going to build up antibodies. And the only way that the whole population is going to be able to function as normal is if they go back to work, if they're not feeling too ill.
Yes, Stacey?
Now that the government has almost diminished their responsibility and said it's up to you and your employer, does that mean that they don't help out employers who are losing staff because of COVID? So it actually, is there even a choice for some people?
Yeah, and that's the question. As you say, that when it's all down to the individual.
I just think it's something that we're going to have to live with, you know, for the next few years. We've lived with it for the last 2 years, and hopefully it's getting better.
Well, I'm eligible. I'm going to be eligible for another booster now. So, I mean, that will be my 1, 2, 3, fourth one, because people 75 and over are going to be able to get another booster in the next few weeks. And I just think, well, fine. Luckily, medicine and vaccinations has moved so quickly over the last 2 years that, you know, we've got to accept this is the normal way of living. And obviously other pandemics will come along. There will be other diseases and other viruses that will attack our population. But for the moment, COVID is something that is diminishing, and the number of people who are dying from it has gone right down. Plus, I do think it was a wake-up call for everyone to wash their hands and be a bit more healthy and a bit more mindful of
mindful of each other.
Yes, mindful of each other and mindful of how you transmit germs.
Exactly. Hopefully that's the bit that will stay with us. We did ask you at home, would you still isolate if you had COVID symptoms? And 82% of you said yes. So maybe that sort of moral code is it's still there,
I think if you feel that you're going to infect someone, don't go to work. But if you travel on public transport, there are plenty of people sneezing and coughing and talking across you without any masks on.
That's it. And that's just what life is right
now.